Okay, my friends, you are in for a major treat. I love Immanuel Velikovsky. He was literally one of the biggest heroes in history because he actually did the research of every culture on the face of the planet, which every culture always had tales of dragons and dinosaurs and so forth. Okay, my outstanding friends, I was taken aback a little while ago when I saw this video attacking my hero, Immanuel Velikovsky. Now, I wrote this book back in 2014, 2015. It's called Mudfossils and Velikovsky and Minds in Collision. Well, the difference with mine is he had worlds in collision, which was about the catastrophe that happened about 1500 BC. And then he wrote a book after that, which was called Oedipus and Akhenaten. And that's when religion changed. It went from a polytheistic, which means many, and I mean many gods, down to one supreme God who ruled everything, and they worshipped him just, because they knew he'd do it again if they didn't. They rebelled against him. Basically, the earth became very corrupt, and he just destroyed earth with Venus. And it was born from the feared god Jupiter. So they ended up saying, he's the guy that we're going to worship forever. Just forget the rest of them. That's the guy that can really hurt us. And that's when religion changed. Now, he wrote, of course, Worlds in Collision was the first book. And they literally made him take it off the bookshelves. The publisher had to pull the book after being 10 weeks, number one, 11 weeks, I think it was, number one on the New York Times bestseller list. 11 weeks in a row. And they just were so upset because people were buying into it because it was recorded on every single culture, in every single culture, carved into statues and plaques and, all kinds of glyphs and in their papyruses and tablets and everything. It was every single one of them had the same story. 1,500 years ago this happened, and then Egypt went to monotheistic about 150 years later or so, which said, we better not upset this guy again because you see what happened last time. Now, so I am up against academia. Velikovsky was up against academia. He was destroyed because he didn't have something to hold in his hand. I do. All the things that I will show you, I can stand behind because I have physical, material evidence. That's what I do, is material evidence to support the things that he claimed. And I can show you some of the things he claimed were not right, as far as I'm concerned, and I will show you the material evidence. But for the most part, it's right on the money. And these ancient texts, I'm finding out, were not just silly stories to scare the kids into being good. They were stories that were, real. And they realize you better do everything you can to please God while you're here. And that means to have love and compassion and all of those things that are the golden rule things. It's not a big, hard concept. It's simple. You don't treat anybody else the way you wouldn't want to be treated. Figure something out. Don't start throwing bombs. This is insanity, what humanity has come. And I can't see that God's going to be putting up with this much longer. I wouldn't if I was him. Anyway, let's go on to see this guy assaulting my hero, Immanuel Velikovsky, and I will try to hold my temper. I've done this about 3 times now, thinking, well, I'm not going to get nasty. I'm just going to say, here's what this guy says, and here's the evidence. I think that's the best way to proceed. But I got to tell you what, it gets me a little bit hot under the collar when I see these arrogant people. And Carl Sagan was absolutely the worst. And he was, you know, I don't want to be nasty, but he was incompetent, just as you will see this guy. All they are is arrogant, and they put on a little fancy smiley face and act like they're superior to most. And you can see that that's just obviously not the case. Arrogance goes a long way. Arrogance goes a long way. And everybody says, oh, Roger, maybe you're arrogant. Well, maybe I am. It didn't work for me. This is basically what Velikovsky was alleging, that out of the red spot came a planet, which came a comet, they call it, because it was brilliant. It was lit up the skies. I think it said 10 times brighter than the sun as it approached Earth for 7 days, cooking the Earth and then bouncing off our atmosphere, creating havoc. But this was what would happen as it came out of the Great Red Spot. And instead of traveling in the same direction the red spot is spinning, it would roll off backwards. And it is the only planet that spins backwards, except Uranus has a bit of a backwards tilt to it. Now, this is the red spot, and this is the planet Earth, which is the same size as Venus on top of it. Now, the reason these clouds are all billowing here is the planet is spinning this way into the clouds that are coming this way, because the planet is rotating inside the cloud layer. And this is a bump. The bump has to push its way through the clouds. There's no problems here. It hits here and it spins. This is Venus Mons. It's a mound. And it is something else that is totally unsuspected, except by Velikovsky and Roger. It is a vagina. This, my friends, is what I am now calling the Spurr lock. Even a vagina has one. And what is a Spurr lock? A Spurr lock is where body parts meet together and they lock together. And I believe right through this little tab here is the Interstitium highway. All right? Because every membrane that protects anything, it has to have a membrane around it, and that membrane has to be allowed fluids to go back and forth through. I'll show you this gets into biology, but I mean, you have to know all these things. That's why. You see this right here? You see this right here? I mean, it is what it is. And these actually look like the hairline of a vagina. This is, that's the structure, and that right there is the clincher. That right there, my friends, is the icing on the cake, so to speak. And those virtually look like the hairline. Now let me show you anatomically what a vagina looks like. I mean, pretty much everybody sort of has an idea, but let me show you anatomically. Okay, my friends, this is it. That is virtually identical to what we saw on Venus. And that, my friends, right there is what I said locks body parts together. Now, what did we see out on Venus? I mean, on Jupiter? Basically identical, same thing. Now, this is sort of a layer, the clitoris, however you pronounce it, that has been the atmosphere coming by it is pushing against this and folding it over this way. That's why you see that, as I'll show you in a second. Everything else is identical. I mean identical. And that right there is the tab that locks this part into the interstitium, which is the fluid-filled highway that allows bacteria and enzymes to enter this membrane area. There's a lot of membranes in here, so you need to have a fluid-filled highway coming through there, and that's it right there. That's pretty. This is all brand new stuff. All right, look at this now. As I told you, there's a tab that locks everything in, and then there's the fluid-filled highway that runs through to connect the membranes together. It's one huge organ that covers your entire body now. It's brand new. This is a lung, been DNA tested. it was in the flood too, flat as a pancake on that side. The depression of the heart is right there. The guy died like that. This is that strap, just like this. And coming through there at the bottom, the fluid-filled highway continues to the next organ. There is one at the top here too that goes to wherever that went to. And this is the fabric of pleura that coats a lung. And again, flat. And again, the tab basically that locks every body part into every other body part. That's how it works. They all have to be connected. All right, you see this rock right here? That's this rock right here. At this very tip, you'd never see this. That's that flap. You see these two spots down here? This is the interstitial fluid-filled highway. That's what would come up to that next body part, right there. And it's the same thing that's going up right through here, right through the center of this one. This one just has a real structural. This must have been connecting, I don't know what, but it's very similar. It's this same sort of fabric here is this fabric here. Now this has some really tough straps across it, so this must have been something really tough. This, I don't know, could very well have been this from right up here attached to wherever it attaches to. I'm not really 100% on the anatomy of all of these different things, but I do know that every one of them attaches to something else. And again, this is brand new research. It's called the interstitial fluid-filled highway. Every organ is attached to every other body part in your body, and all of these fluids can flow through this highway. That's how bacteria, enzymes, drugs, everything, food, calcium, all your glucose, oxygen, that's where it goes. That's how it gets there. It goes through the blood primarily. But there's another layer in there, the fluid-filled highway. It's mostly the lymph system, basically. So that's the way I'm looking at it right now. A lot of it has to do with the lymph. There's a lot of research to do on this, but it's very interesting research, because they didn't even know about this until just recently. And the only reason I knew that all these things were connected was because a friend of mine who runs a Fascia Institute in Germany told me that they were finding tattoo particles way down inside the body in organs, in the fascia. That's what he does, a fascia. And he said that they were finding it coating, little bits of, not coating, but down there in that fascia. And they didn't know what it was at first. And they realized, wow, it's coming from tattoos. So obviously, somehow it's getting down there. And they all are connected. And after my Mudfossil research, I knew that this was all fluidy things going through there. And they really didn't know that. They thought it was just one flat layer, and there was like maybe one membrane, and that was it. Well, no, there's thousands of membranes, really. And there's one fluid-filled highway that runs through there, which protects you. So anyway, I hope that sort of backs me up on the fact that this is precisely what I said it is. Right there is where the fluid-filled highway is, right here, coming into this to service all the tissues and membranes that are in this area. This is just sort of twisted over here. That is the clitoris, clitoris, whatever you want to call it. That's the vaginal canal. And this basically looks like the hairline. I see no difference whatsoever. They said the planet popped out of there, and as it did come out, it's rolling backwards. Jupiter's going this way. It's called the right-hand rule, okay? It's going this way, spinning this way. This thing popped out, so it wouldn't spin this way. It would roll off backwards. And that's exactly what it did. Venus is spinning backwards, and nobody can account for that. And that's the only thing that does. Jupiter's going this way. Venus rolled out of it going this way. Not a hard concept to understand. Okay, I made a remark about Carl Sagan. And here he is right here. Velikovsky is told by Sagan. Now you make your determination whether he's arrogant and incompetent or not. I have already made my determination. I did this about Carl Sagan, Velikovsky, and the affair. This is somebody else. Here's me again. And this was very, very good. This is only a couple of minutes long. He says everything has to change. 100% changes if Velikovsky was right. And he was right, and I'm right. And 100% does change. Now, if you want to see what Carl Sagan had to say, stick around for the next 5 minutes and you'll see what you think of him as a scientist. How about that? All right, this is about the 4th time I'm trying to do this without getting nasty. This is Clinton Anderson put this up about Velikovsky as told by Carl Sagan 13 years ago. It's got 776 hits. Nobody cares about Velikovsky. He was being destroyed. That's before I even put my book out. I put my book out close to 10 years ago, but they had destroyed him since 1950. Now listen to how arrogant he is. And again, I'm just not going to say a word until this is over, because again, I went about 4 times through this. Every time he hits a point, I go, rah, 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 and I start screaming, and I'm not going to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave the room until this is done. All right, take it away, you arrogant incompetent. And the first thing he's going to do is act like a pervert looking into a vagina.
There is a curious argument alleging major recent collisions in the solar system proposed by a psychiatrist named Immanuel Velikovsky in 1950. He suggested that an object of planetary mass, which he called a comet, was somehow produced in the Jupiter system. He doesn't say exactly how it's produced, but maybe it's spat out of Jupiter. Anyway, however it was made, some 3,500 years ago, he imagines, it made repeated close encounters with Mars, with the Earth-Moon system, having as entertaining biblical consequences the parting of the Red Sea so that Moses and the Israelites could safely avoid the host of Pharaoh, and the stopping of the Earth's rotation at the moment that Joshua commanded the sun to stand still in Gibeon. He also imagined that there was extensive flooding and the volcanoes all over the Earth at that time. Well, then after a very complicated game of interplanetary billiards is completed, Velikovsky proposed that this comet entered into a stable, almost perfectly circular orbit, becoming the planet Venus, which he claimed never existed until then. Now, these ideas are almost certainly wrong. There's no objection in planetary astronomy to collisions. We've seen collision fragments and evidence throughout the solar system. The problem is with recent and major collisions. In any scale model of the solar system like this, it's impossible to have both the sizes of the planets and the sizes of their orbits to the same scale, because then the planets would be too small to see. If the planets were really to scale in such a model as grains of dust, it would then be entirely clear that a comet entering the inner solar system would have a negligible chance of colliding with a planet in only a few thousand years. Moreover, Venus is a rocky and metallic hydrogen-poor world, whereas Jupiter, the place that Velikovsky imagines it comes from, is made of almost nothing but hydrogen. There's no energy source in Jupiter to eject planets or comets. If one did enter the inner solar system, there is no way it could stop the Earth from rotating, and if it could, there's no way the Earth could start up rotating again at anything like 24 hours a day. There's no geological evidence for flooding and volcanism 3,500 years ago. Babylonian astronomers observed Venus in its present stable orbit before Velikovsky said it existed, and so on. There are many hypotheses in science which are wrong. That's perfectly right. It's the aperture to finding out what's right. Science is a self-correcting process. To be accepted, new ideas must survive the most rigorous standards of evidence and scrutiny. The worst aspect of the Velikovsky affair is not that many of his ideas were wrong or silly or in gross contradiction to the facts. Rather, the worst aspect is that some scientists attempted to suppress Velikovsky's ideas. The suppression of uncomfortable ideas may be common in religion or in politics, but it is not the path to knowledge, and there's no place for it in the endeavor of science. We do not know beforehand where fundamental insights will arise from about our mysterious and lovely solar system. And the history of our study of the solar system shows clearly that accepted and conventional ideas are often wrong, and that fundamental insights can arise from the most unexpected sources.
Yes, exactly, Carl. And, you know, it really irks me when he says, oh, we just have to be very, very careful to, watch and pay attention to be accepted. New ideas must survive the most rigorous. Well, yes, but you have to look at them.
Standards of evidence and scrutiny.
Scrutiny. What is scrutiny, Carl? Scrutiny is taking a look at something and scrutinizing it and thinking they have no clue about the literal reality of the gods, the literal reality of the giants having hair follicles this size, the literal reality of the dragons, all written about in history. And now don't forget, this only happened 3,500 years ago, and this created the worldwide flood that I reported on, that I realized from the mud fossils, and now Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, one of the top universities in the world, has signed off on it that this was a great worldwide flood. I will show you their paper right now, and I'm going to show it thousands of times. There was a great worldwide catastrophe that preserved all my mud fossils in their perfect, I think they call it exceptionally preserved. Even geese. My friend Caesar Augustus. And there's his feathers. I will show him another 1,000 times. We have new species. The process of mud fossilization is totally understood, and we want to scrutinize that evidence to see if it meets your rigorous standards. I would think it would. I have DNA tests, 3 of them. I have CAT scans, 7 of them. I have specimens, thousands of them. I have the chemistry worked out. The dates are from Velikovsky, and they seem quite valid to me. Everything I have found, virtually 100% of the stuff I have, came from on top of the Earth. I didn't dig for anything, so it happened very, very recently. And there's a hair follicle. Hold on, and I really don't want to be nasty. But the attitudes of these guys, and like the guy with a little beanie and a rag around his neck, these people annoy me. They really annoy me. I can't help it. I just can't help it. It's hard to just go on about life with these kind of people around. These are the bad people that they talked about in the past. So they're arrogant, and they are mind alterers. They create what's called menticide. All right, menticide. It means, well, here's what it means. All right, here's your menticide. It's a systematic, and I mean system-wide. All your academics respond identically, and I'm saying all of them. Systematic effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and beliefs. Don't believe in anything that Roger says. Don't believe in anything about the past and about the things that were written about this Bible nonsense and Jesus just another guy in the street, probably begging who knows what, and making everybody fall for his foolish ideas. Well, this is what they've done, is they've turned you into, it's just unbelievable what they have done. They've destroyed truth. They force you to pay them for a piece of paper that says you can tell everybody else what they told you to say. If you don't tell them what they told you to say, they fail you, keep their money, and won't give you the piece of paper, give you the shovel, go back in the fields. So you're so intimidated by academia, by people like Carl Sagan, by people that are in the top ranks of academia and the government. They are intimidators. They extort the money from the students because they say, if you don't have one of these pieces of paper that we give you saying that you're smart, your life is going to be trash. And if you don't say what we tell you to say after you pay us, we'll make it trash anyway. So you better come here with, make sure you write everything we say and say it exactly the way we say it. Don't argue or you'll be destroyed. That's the way it works. Ben Stein just put out a video, or not just recently, it was a few years back, I guess, called Expelled. And any one of them talked about creation, about these ancient texts, about the things that, how did this happen, how did that happen? No. Settled science, you say it the way we told you to say it, or you get the hell out of here. And that's what's happened. All right, watch this. This is Through to Phil.
So in this video, we're going to talk about Immanuel Velikovsky's book, Oedipus and Akhenaten. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a big fan of Velikovsky, this is not the video for you. This is one of the rare videos. I don't normally do this, but it's sometimes fun to just get your claws out and rip someone apart. And Velikovsky deserves to be ripped apart. So this is not going to be a positive description of Velikovsky's work.
I just want to tell you, there's no sense for you to watch this or for us to watch this together because the guy is an incompetent that has just nothing but, he's a drone for mainstream. And he's as incompetent, as arrogant as you can possibly be. I never do this. I'm so cool that I don't have to. But this guy deserves to be torn apart. He's dead and can't stand up for himself. Well, I can stand up for him. And now I'm going to do it. Oh, this is too funny. I think this is the guy that was talking about Velikovsky being an idiot. Okay, my friends, I'm going to just keep whacking away about Velikovsky and how arrogant these people like Carl Sagan and this guy here. This is hilarious. Yeah, this is funny. Now, also this guy here, James Tour, I had a long conversation on the phone with him, and then he says, I saw your videos, and we don't have anything to talk about. I said, what are you talking about? You're looking for the origin of life. He's supposed to be a scientist at Rice University. I talked to him on the phone for 20 minutes. He said, I've spent all the time I'm going to spend with you. And here he is running his mouth. This guy is a real confrontationalist. And I said, confront me. Let's talk. Let's do a video. No, not you. Everybody else but you. I'm telling you something. It's stunning how incompetent these people are and how arrogant they are. And this guy here, wait till you see this. And I'm going to try to be nice, but you see here, hold on a second. I just want to show you something. You see him? He's going to really demean my friend Immanuel Velikovsky. Now, first of all, I just want to show you what I think okay, I know this is running a little long, but I want to make some last final points. This is the stunner. It seems to be getting everybody's interest. There's the muscle attached to the hair follicle right there. That makes your hair stand up on end. This is the sebaceous gland. This is the hair follicle, the shaft. And here's where the vein and artery are on the bottom. And the hair grows around and comes up. It has a flat side, so they say that's a curly-haired person. I'll accept that. And again, this is a hair follicle. Now, we're talking giants, we're talking preservation, we're talking all the things that no scientist will confront. None. So this is what happened to Velikovsky. Now I have evidence. I don't just have text. I have every single thing to support every single word I'm saying. I did make no statements whatsoever that are not backed up by physical evidence. I'm a material scientist. I do look at these ancient texts. Do they have any validity? Yes, they do. All right, so again, this is not one of my favorite people right here, Mr. Beanie. But what I want you to do, a friend of mine is writing these books. I have nothing to do with the books other than that it's my content. And I said, just, go ahead and write them, that's fine. He's saying, by Roger Spurr. This is my work, but it's Paul Amatucci is who's putting the books out. I have nothing to do with it. I don't profit from it. And all I can say is he's doing a nice job at making a presentation. See, all research done by Roger Spurr. So he's giving me credit, this is all my stuff. This is the paper I did about Velikovsky and all of the criticism and everything. And it comes down, he shows pictures, and these all great truths begin as blasphemies. And that's a fact. Now, then he's writing them all about my stuff. Particle theory, the Mudfossils and the Titans, electron flood. Ooh, wow. They're nice, and they're good coffee table books. People tell me the kids love them. He's got all kind of illustrations in here. Again, it's stuff that it was from my research, but I don't have anything to do with the books themselves. But you should go up. I think they're on Amazon. I don't know. Paul Amatucci put them out, and I'll try to get a link to them. And I know a bunch of people have been buying them, and they've been, as far as I know, nobody's upset about it. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, my friends, I am going to just play the videos that I pre-recorded. I have Liam with me, and we're going to discuss what he talks about in relation to Immanuel Velikovsky. Now, I know Liam has watched at least some of this video already, so has an understanding of what this guy's going to say. But he literally is attacking my hero, Immanuel Velikovsky, who I wrote a book about, who was attacked by everybody in history and would have been dropped through the fabric of history, except for, basically, I stepped up and wrote a book about him about 8 years ago, and I said, this is not going to stand. This is just a tragedy. And they're still doing the same thing today. So, anyway, I'm going to play this. Liam's with me, and he's going to watch. So, here goes. I'm going to play it now. Okay, like I said, I pre-recorded this, and Liam is with me here, and we're going to try to sort this out. Now, he's got a couple of points he wants to make. So far, I've just made the points I've made. We got a lot more to go, but Liam's going to talk. Liam, it's on you, buddy. Go ahead.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks, Roger. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No,
yeah, so yeah, I've had a look at it, and you picked up on that straight away, where it started with a kind of prejudiced attitude, saying he's ready to rip somebody apart. Do you know what I mean? That's like a starting position. And I thought, that's not great. And then, so at least he's being honest, but he's establishing that his position is to be hostile from the start. We're not really supposed to do that with science. Do you know what I'm saying? Right. So there was that point. I think you picked up on that. But then there's this point of, like, especially with Egypt, we don't really know the exact order of stuff and exact who's where and when. It's really difficult. And in fact, I did a show a while ago where they found a brand new queen. No, she wasn't even in the records. Completely missed the queen in a pyramid. So things change. That's the point I wanted to make. Things change. And Professor Joseph Campbell, who's famed for doing comparative mythology, okay, and he's comparing all these myths to try and get an understanding of our origins. And it's basically accepted, and it was celebrated, and probably was an inspiration for Star Wars. So why, there's a lot more to say as well. Sorry, ramble on.
No, that's okay. What I'm trying to show is, was there evidence to support his claim that only 3,500 years ago was this global worldwide flood that preserved all these mud fossils that Yale agrees they're perfectly preserved, exceptionally preserved, soft body creatures. That's their paper, and that was after I presented it all to them. So they agreed that this happened, and I should show you the paper. But my point is that is there supporting physical material evidence to say this is either absolutely sure, or this is possible, or this is likely? What is it, or is it just ridiculous? Right now, it's ridiculous because nobody's looked at it.
Exactly.
All right. So at this point, we're in the ridiculous realm. Now, I am going to show you right now. Let's play this clip that I did, and then we'll discuss this one, because this is where Venus literally was born, from this red spot on Jupiter. Now, like I said, there's going to be some female body parts in here, so that's just the way life is. All right, here it goes, Liam. All right, I showed you Jupiter, the size of Jupiter. Jupiter is, I think, is 400 times bigger than Earth, and it had what I got to go with a vagina, and it gave birth, just like Velikovsky said. And as Velikovsky said, it almost hit us and caused this catastrophe, and all of the giants died, and all of the huge things on Earth died, and then it went over to Mars and impacted Mars and killed everything on Mars, wiped it completely off the face of the planet. This whole concussion area, where I believe at the top is where it concussed and dragged it all the way across, and this is a huge deep valley. This is more wide than the United States. So this is not a little puppy, and it's deep. And then Venus bounced off and went on its way to cause more havoc. And it's still very, very hot now. It's over 800 degrees. Now, I still got Liam with me, and we're talking about this vagina, and how it is just basically like a normal vagina. That's just the way they are, and it has the tab at the bottom where the interstitial fluids and the latch is, and now in 2019 this happened, the Great Red Spot. That's what we were just looking at. This is from May 25th to June 1st. That's only 6 days. All right, here's what happened. They first noticed this, which is the Great Red Spot starting to slough off red flakes, they were calling them, red scabs, slabs. They were calling them red slabs. Not gases, slabs. And then an hour or whatever this is, this was at almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is at, 8 o'clock at night, basically. So we're only talking about 6 hours difference. It's really sloughing now. More and more and more. And look at this now, at the bottom, all kinds of red blood. Look at this one. And at this point they were saying, this thing's going to fall apart. They thought it was falling apart, the red. No, it's a bloody scab coming off. And then this one. Now, I don't know what happened after this. This is the last shot I have of this event, but I have no idea what it looks like now at all. But I'm going to tell you one thing. It sure looks to me like that is basically, I believe a doctor would say, that appears to be a cervix starting to enlarge, and that's what happens before they give birth. That's all I can say. Now, you would say, how would it get impregnated? Well, there was a comet that hit Venus. I think it was 1994. Shoemaker-Levy. And I think there was 9 hits of it. Well, I usually only go 4 or 5 times, but that thing had 9 hits, man. And it came out like this. Now, this is 25 years later. So, could it be about to give birth again? It could be. You got to start thinking about crazy things, because the things were crazy. They were beyond crazy. They were so beyond crazy. Doesn't even start to be.
Yeah. People used to think the motor car was crazy, that you'd suffocate after like 30 miles an hour. You go faster than that. You're like, ah.
Well, you do, don't you? Some people would argue that. You know, there's people. It's just amazing what people will argue that. But you know, if you have material, factual, evidential, you know, something to look at, something to hold in your hand, or something to visualize and see if you can fit it into the fabric of history. What was written about, there's not a single culture that's ever breathed oxygen that doesn't speak about giants and dragons and monsters and gods and terrestrial, celestial beings, wars in the heavens. Not one, not a single one. They all have that same story. And think about this now. I've shown my mud fossils over and over and over and over and over. And they're giants, and all the giants now, every single one that I have almost. There was a one or two that were just barely under the surface of the earth. Or on the surface of the earth, I just picked them up. No digging to do. They're just laying there on the top of the earth. This happened not that long ago, and I do now understand. I think we were just talking about the phospholipids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the phospholipids.
Yeah, the membranes, yeah.
Yeah, the membranes. The membranes are what boiled off and sealed everything. This is what happened. Collagen is in the membranes. Now, let me just show you something. Where were we? Where's the membranes? Here it is right here. Now, you see this phospholipid bilayer right here? These are phosphorus. All right, now phosphorus is right above aluminum and silicates. All right, so you got phosphor is, 15, silicon is 14, aluminum is 13. Those are their atomic weights. Now, when these hot waters soak them, they turn all the fascia, which this is, membranes are exactly the same thing, called fascia, called a membrane, I don't care what you call it. It's the same collagens. Now, under these conditions, these salty water floods, they created aluminum silicates primarily. So we had heavy silicates, which bonded to the membranes, which that's what they are. They're phospholipid bilayers. They're right in that same chemistry range. And they sealed, and I was going to call it fascia-facilitated fossilization, because everything I was finding, it was all coated with the fascia, and that's what preserved it. And they were boiled out of the flesh. The flesh turned into mud. You know, it all started to make sense once you really can allow it to be absorbed in your mind. And this aluminum silicates was where these are the membranes. They would allow things in and out. That's their job. So they were allowing things in and out, but still sealing the package. And then inside you get that nucleophilic substitution where the stabilizing metals primarily and molecules, silicates primarily, carrying other metals and so forth. They found partners inside these membranes to stabilize them, and that's what my mud fossils are. Like, I'm going to hold up a lung, hold on. I don't know if you can see this. Well, anyway, you've seen this a million times, and you'll see it again.
I've seen it, yeah, I've seen it before.
This is the lung that is nothing more than this stuff here. Dense. This is dense on a lung. Very dense. It's not just one layer. No. But it is all of this phospholipids. It means there's a lot of phosphorus in this. And this now they call this feldspar. Well, the phosphorus has an affinity to degrade down to aluminum silicates. Every single feldspar there is, 100%, is aluminum silicates. 100%. And everything I have is coated with aluminum silicates, which is feldspar. In some cases, that's been broken away and you're down to the quartz and so forth, yes. But primarily all the rocks, basically, that I show you, even Caesar here, He's aluminum silicate. That's what he is on the top. And the phosphorus in this matrix, which is collagens, and membranes, which is these phospholipids, the phosphorus has boiled down to aluminum silicates. And that's feldspar. Feldspar coats all my organs and all these things that I'm showing. This right here, you see this? That is the meat inside of something. Again, great flood, flat like this. This is the feldspar on the outside. This is not 100% feldspar. There's always the membrane and the coating. This was probably a lung too, because this is pretty thick. A lot of the feldspar is very thin. Well,
so the fascia's acting as a kind of barrier then. Once the surface layers come off, the fascia's sealing everything in.
Exactly, and all of the other stuff, I call it the cheap stuff. It can boil away and turn into stew, really, literally. It's turning into mud. And underneath, by the time you hit these membrane layers, they get stabilized. And then they will allow fluids in and out, because that's their job anyway. They have to let things in and out. The things that are supposed to go in will go in. They'll go in pushed by the water. And then they have nobody to drop stuff off, so they stabilize. You follow me? When you let me just explain something about biology. Hold on a second. I think I have transition metals queued up here. Here they are, right here. Now, in your blood, and now I'm starting to think that there's a ton of this stuff in the lymph as well, because these charges make these things attractive to different enzymes, proteins, bacteria, calcium, minerals, glucose. That's what these plus charges are. They're oxidation states.
Mm-hmm.
And you see iron here, FeO2 and 3. 2 and 3 are the oxidation states of iron. The 3 is the red blood. The 2 is the blue or black blood. They have a different color. I don't know why they show that color. I got to be perfectly honest with you. But for me, red is the 3, and black or blue is the 2. But you can see vanadium. Look at how many oxygenation states there are. But my point here is, these buggers are the transporters. So they flow through your body carrying all kinds of things. They go into these membranes through these ion channels. An ion channel it's a polar channel. Ions are polar molecules. So it's an ion channel that will allow certain things to come in and then certain things to go back out. Well, once you're dead, the stuff comes in. It allows it to come in, but it can't dump stuff off. So it tries to find somebody to partner up with to become stable, and that's what happens inside the fascia. The fascia coats it, but inside there is all these transition metals. You want to see something?
Right.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, it's got no choice, is it? Yeah.
It can't get back. It can't. There's nowhere else to go. It's down there now. It could run back out. But the ion channels, as you recall, or maybe not, you see this protein channel.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know what a protein is, brother? A protein is one of the most
and
elegant.
you said that they have the neutralizing counterpart inside the channels, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, proteins are enzymes, viruses. They're all little ribosomes, and they are the most elegant chemistry you have ever seen. But these are, they call it protein channel. They're ion channels. I don't know where it's not showing that here, but they're polar, hydrophilic and hydrophobic. One of them hates water, one of them loves water. That's the difference between the two. And the difference is the chemistry. It gets a little complicated, but that's what it is, hydrophilic, hydrophobic. And these little tails up here push away water one way and they push away water the other way. Anyway, like I said, it gets a little complicated, but that's how you allow things in and push things back out. You can't just allow anything in, and you can't just push anything out. This is intelligence on steroids, man.
Yeah, it makes sense to see the image though, because then you can see how it's literally looks like a filter. It
is a filter, yeah. And I showed you the lymph nodes out in the desert. That's just unbelievable, the filtration system that has. And here, this is how big things are. These are membrane layers. And every one of these layers has you see them all, they have a lot of different colors.
Yeah,
The different colors are different chemistry. They're different transition metals. And why would they form in different layers? Well, as I told you before, the membranes are not just one layer. There's literally thousands of them. Every one of these is a membrane. Every one of these layers is another layer of membrane that protects the next thing down. And this could very well be the fluid-filled highway down in here somewhere. All right, and this is nothing more than the mud running off, the bloody, fleshy stuff running off. Now, you see how thick that is? It's a membrane. And they're all
that's
over
bigger
here.
than that beach, the Hunstanton. That's even bigger, isn't it?
I believe it is, yeah. Tyson's got a spot over there. Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures. He's got all kinds of stuff that is membranes and all kinds of things. It's Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures, and but the stuff is everywhere. I mean, it's literally everywhere. So people are
It's like
finding.
you say, because you've had the mud flood confirmed, then it changed everything, doesn't it? Because it's a clean canvas again, isn't it? The whole surface has been wiped clean with this mud flood.
Well, it's the Great Flood. Mud floods are a whole different story. A mud flood is like we're having now all over the earth. It's raining like a foot or 2 feet in 3 or 4 hours, and nothing can hold that. Now, what happens after it's done? You got buildings that are not there anymore. You can walk over the top of them, and that's what they have found. That's a mud flood. What we're talking about is not that. We're talking about this.
Yeah, sorry, these are wrong.
Well,
term.
no.
Thanks
Well,
for picking that up.
yeah, no, we got to be careful about that because I'm having a lot of people's. But anyway, this is the one. Exceptionally preserved soft-bodied creatures from silica-rich oceans. From the oceans. And this is the guy, Derek Briggs, I was working with at Yale. And here's what they say right here. This is they're saying it's the earliest fossilized ecosystem of these worldwide creatures, yet how the fossils are preserved remains controversial. Well, we know that's not really accurate. Now, they say many of the fossils are, whatever this word is, anectocolistically preserved as casts and molds and sandstone. They're calling it Edakara-style preservation. He really, I told him it's mud fossils. He renamed it and took credit for it, really. Here he says, we present evidence for this Edakara member of South Australia that Edakara-style preservation was due to rapid, early stage, whatever that means, precipitation. Forget the early stage. Rapid precipitation of silica cements. That's the phospholipids breaking down to the aluminum silicates, facilitated by the high silica, which is I just told you about, saturation state of the oceans prior to the appearance of prolific silica biomineralizers. That means they're all been mineralized using a lot of silicates, and all fascia is feldspar, and that is aluminum silicates with inclusions. If it was next to the kidneys, it might have some other minerals in there. If it was next to the heart, it would have a lot of irons in there. If it was next to the liver, who knows what you got. And again, I'm going to do something on this. All of these colors. Well, here, before I go to that, look at this. Everybody asks about the gold. I just did one on gold. They're veins of gold. The gold is in your blood, and it settles down according to specific gravity. Up here is red blood, you see? And down here is the gold that collected in the artery. This one here just leaked out, and is now an empty vein of silicates. Silicates filled in all the voids. And I mean all of them. Did you see the one I did on Mitchell Hedges' skull the other day?
No, I missed that one.
Wait a second. I gotta show that. And then I gotta wrap it up because it's getting late over here, brother. Hold on 1 second. You must be late over there. What, you about 1 o'clock in the morning?
Nearly midnight. I'll change into a werewolf in 10 minutes.
Yeah, watch. Oh, hold on a second, man. All right. Yale says there's a heavy amount of silicas. Well, yeah, I absolutely agree. And again, they were because of the boiling down of the fascia and so forth from the phospholipid layers. Because everything has a phospholipid, even blood cells have membranes around them. Nothing exists as a component that doesn't have a membrane. Now look at this. This is Mitchell Hedges' crystal skull. This is a brain scan of the neural fiber network. Now, look to the Mitchell Hedges over here. Look at this band coming down around here. You see it? What do you see here?
That's strikingly similar.
There is no difference whatsoever. You see this one here? See it back here? Now this.
They're pinching together, aren't they? They're not in the right spots again.
Oh yeah, they're coming together in the center here. But let me just show you this. This is the bulbous part of the, I guess the cerebellum, cerebrum. I can't remember which it is, but this is it right here. And he was laying on his nose, and you see what happened to his lip and everything? The lip got pushed back. Now, why did all the other bodily flesh go away, but the lip didn't? Why would you think that is?
That's an interesting detail. And why would you carve that little notch?
Oh, nobody's going to carve. This is not carved. There's absolutely no way in the world it could possibly be carved and have this detail right here and right here. There's no. It just can't happen. It's impossible. Now, and the brain, whatever this part of the brain is, drifted forward because he was on his lip. And the reason the lip got preserved is because it was stuck in like some mud. And the silicates invaded everything else and worked its way all the way down here into the mud and turned that still into silicon, but it kept its form. All the other stuff eroded away, the flesh. You understand what I'm talking about? That would be right on his face.
Yeah.
He would be laying there right on his face, just like that.
Yeah. And then thought about that with the nose missing. Thought about that.
It crushed it right there.
That's a great point.
And the brain drifted down this way. This jaw, you can take that jaw right off of there. It's totally articulated, just like yours is. No différence. Somebody designed this. Look at these things. Look at how perfect the bones are in people. It's just incredible biology. It blows my freaking mind. So anyway, now, and I showed about the gold, and the gold collects in veins and arteries. That's a vein, an artery.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's blood in here too. You can actually see little red spots of blood where it would kick off to of the little arteries. Well, here's another one. You see this one? This is the red is red blood, is artery blood. The black is vein blood. And you see this little squiggly thing that's coming through here? This was like, there was like arteries and veins and stuff in here. But it all gets washed out and replaced, the substitution. Anyway, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this lake up in Canada. I know exactly what's going on here, and I think I know what this lake is made out of and how it formed and so forth. It's going to be interesting.
That's crazy. That brain as well, that skull. I just so happen to have this colourful periodic chart of the screen as well. So I'm looking at the both of them thinking, Jesus. It's like, you matched them up.
Oh, yeah,
I'm happy.
The transition metals right here. And you can see in that brain scan. Now, I don't know how they did this, but you see these different colors? That would, to me, represent that there, and it's a good thing you brought that up, your colored chart there. Those different colors represent different transition metals. Now, they just happen to color it this way, but the actual transition metals themselves have these specific colors, these blue and orange and green and red. And now,
Yep.
that is really interesting. I had not thought about this, Liam. That's fabulous that you thought. You see where they start to change colors and go in here?
Yeah, because they look like structured,
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. I didn't even think to look at this, man. This is what's good about talking to you about these things.
Other people, man, ideas, you've got to bounce them off.
You got to. I like I said the other day when I was talking, I think it was you I was talking to, I said, I forgot, I was wrong about copper my whole life. Look at this. That, I got to do some looking, because if that is really truly the color of the image they're getting back, that relates to this, which relates to chemistry, which relates to metals, which relate to insulation and possible synapse connectivity due to the oxidation states. Wow, holy smokes, man. This is...
We could be checking people's levels and looking at these the metals and minerals in your body as ways to get you optimized, and it's probably going to supercharge us and get us working properly.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing that makes these metals and makes everything in your body work and makes your chemistry work and makes you alive is bacteria, and the bacteria create the enzymes. The enzymes are so powerful, you would die in a second if you didn't have the enzymes and you were pumping. And if you don't have the right ones, you'll just be chronically ill. You'll have all kinds of problems. And this right here, to me, I'm saying right here, I'm looking at these different colors. I can almost guarantee you there's different enzymes. Well, I can guarantee you, no question whatsoever. There's different enzymes in different areas in here. If this is truly the colors that are fibered out of here, they're changing their chemistry as they go into other areas, which those other areas, some of them might control speech, some of them might control coordination, and you always have a gut-brain interaction together. They call it the gut-brain axis. And the funny thing, I never forget this. I never get headaches because my stomach never bothers me. But when I ever got headaches when I was younger, I always had a stomach problem, and then I would get headaches. So, anyway, I got to run, brother. I think you locked up on me. Earth to Liam. Houston, we have a problem. Anyway, I got to go, brother. I'm going to lock it up, and thank you for your assistance once again. Okay, I'm going to finish up with this. This was in 1952. On the horizon, the meteoric Velikovsky. They said, wow, this guy's really going to come back to life again. They've destroyed him, but we are going to bring him back to life, and we're going to bring everything back to life. This reality. All these books we're going to have all new books. We're going to have a whole new history, because it's got to be revised 100%. Listen to what they had to say. Velikovsky wrote Worlds in Collision, which was when Venus almost hit Earth. I think we've been pretty covered that now. Of course, he was attacked, and they forced him to take his book off the bookshelves. Listen to this. This is the new book he's putting out, Ages in Chaos, which is a reconstruction of ancient history from the Exodus to King Akhenaten. Well, what was the Exodus? We're going to go over all of these things. And who was King Akhenaten, the Pharaoh? Well, this book appears under the imprint of Doubleday as a publisher who adopted Velikovsky after his original publisher, Macmillan, abandoned him because they came under fire of outraged scientific opinion. They said, if you don't take your book off the bookshelves, we'll never buy another book from you. And Macmillan was a big academic publisher, so they took it off the bookshelves. Now, 50 years ago, listen to this, and think about what this says now. 50 years ago, such a book would have been laughed at, all right, because they think it's just hysterical, ridiculous. However, now it is used as a weapon against science. No, science is a weapon against reality. He's writing books about what he has investigated and what the research indicates. That is science. These people weaponize science against truth. This guy is just exactly backwards, as virtually all the academics are. He says 50 years ago, everybody just laughed at this idiot. But now it's being used against science as a weapon to destroy science. On the dust jacket of the new book is an authorized statement by this Pfeiffer, the head of the Semitics Department of Harvard University. Well, Harvard, Yale, comme ci, comme ça. If Dr. Velikovsky, listen to this is in quotes from Harvard Top Shot here. If Dr. Velikovsky is right, which he is, this volume is the greatest contribution to the investigation of ancient times ever written. Again, if Dr. Velikovsky is right, this volume is the greatest contribution to the investigation of ancient times ever written. What did Velikovsky say? Velikovsky himself does not expect such cautious sympathy from the academic fraternity at large. Here's what he says. This time the historians will attack me. Last time it was all of the physicists and all of the cosmologists. But we're going to do it. We got to start all over. It's got to start right from scratch again. None of the books you read are correct. It's just a fact now, and they know it. They just don't know how to deal with the fallout from it. And this is not just history and our ancient past and geology and anthropology and archaeology. It's also atomic theory. It's dipole electron flood theory. Is well, it's not even a theory anymore. It's absolutely proven. So I have shown all these things. These books will back me up, and they're just made for an introduction. A lot of it is just sort of fluffy stuff, but he's always going to talk about Velikovsky, my hero, and he's going to throw in mud fossils in here and there. They're going to be all over the place, and he's going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, even though it's mostly electron flood or partially electron flood theory. Again, I have nothing to do with how he formats the books. All I care about is that my papers are in there somewhere. So if you see something in there that doesn't, I might not agree even with some of the stuff he's got in here, but they're basically all have my name on it, and it's primarily my research. So we have to start out by these kind of books. We'll edit them as we go forward. We'll make them more refined and more focused, and because I'm sort of a broad fielded guy. Although I do have some people that are speaking to me now about creating a worldwide network of nodes, churches, libraries, local shops or wherever. And just set up a little computer in an office in the back and have a half a dozen people sit around, watch it, and discuss it. And I will make the presentations based on my research, and then we'll have the moderator being able to patch together a bunch of questions. If I'm not concise enough and I don't make enough sense, ask the questions. Then I'll address them in the next day's video, or maybe even that same day if they're whatever. because I got plenty of time to do this. I'm retired. I'm not doing anything else. I want to set things straight. And I want to resurrect probably the biggest hero that was ever in history, because he wasn't afraid to speak. He was not afraid to speak. And he paid the price. Okay, this is going to be fabulous. The next video will be on this colored lake in Canada, and they have no idea what to think of it. I understand what's going on here, I'm very sure, and you will too when I get done explaining it, but it's going to require a little chemistry, and it's going to require a little biology and anatomy and all the rest. So just stick in with me with the next couple of videos coming up. We're going to really start to analyze the chemistry of the Earth. What's going on here? This is so many things that nobody can explain, and they're just walked around. I don't walk around things. I usually try to go through them, and I can go through these pretty well. So stick with me. We'll see if we make sense or it doesn't. It's up to you. All right? So hopefully you got something out of what I had to say today. And that's all I'm going to say on gold. I'm not going to say where you should go look and all that business. People will make their own determinations. But that's where crystals and so forth form in the way I showed they form. That's about the best I'm going to be able to do for you, for your for your crystal hunting and gold mining and all that stuff. It's nothing more than chemistry.